to go? We're all set? Okay, and we're streaming? Good to go. Can everyone hear me without this? Well, good. Well, welcome to the Keshen Goodman Library. As the folks who've been here for a little while have seen, sometimes things don't go exactly according to Hoyle. So we're going to have a little bit of a modified presentation here. We have with us this afternoon Paul Heath from the Royal Astronomical Society, and he's going to be providing a little bit of background on how the International Space Station has been impacted by Canadian content. And how are we doing for time there, Eric? Time? Sorry? 2:34? Okay, well, you take the time to eat and all this film. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Paul Heath.
Hello. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Okay. My name is Paul Heath. I'm with the Royal Astronomical Society Halifax Centre. This is the fourth presentation I've done for AIRS now. So it's and I was going to do a question, but the little guy showed up, so I don't have to replace him. So I'll continue on here. AIRS and the Royal Astronomical Society and the IMP group is presenting this contact. And what I'd like you to realize, Heavens Above is the best website to find out where the space station is. We can actually see it. It's bright enough to see in the daytime. In the early morning sky, that's Venus. The space station's almost as bright as Venus. So I have a few copies here of the next few days of the contacts of the space station. Tonight at 9 minutes after 6 in the southeast, the space station will be one hand's width above the horizon. So if you put your thumb on the horizon, you should see it just above the treetops. So you can actually follow the space station. It'll pass over Nova Scotia for about 2 or 3 minutes. And it's sort of reddish light moving in a steady line in the southeast. So it's fairly easy to see. And Heavens Above, wherever you're on, you can put in your location and find the space station. Now, Heavens Above will give you data. This is the same here, is it shows where the space station is at any time. And then you go on to the different satellites, or in this case, the ISS. So tonight's viewing is at 6:09 to 6:12, so you got a 3-minute pass at fairly good altitude. And the next few days we've got some pretty good passes. The best one is on the 28th at 5:52. It's 67 degrees. It's up really high, and it's almost 5-minute pass, so it'll go almost right overhead from northeast to southeast. So it'll be a great visual if you get a chance to go out. And you just need your own eyes. You don't need any special equipment. Now the space station is almost complete. I think there's 1 or 2 modules left to go up. But it's been built over the last 10 years. The solar panels are fairly good size, but we're Canadians, so we want to know how big it is. It's 5 hockey rinks long and a whole hockey rink wide. So this is our Canadian measurements for us here. The solar panels are stretched out the full length of a hockey rink, and all the main struts are 5 hockey rinks wide. So it's a fairly good size. Up to 6 astronauts can live on there at one time. And right now there's 3 because the Soyuz escape module only holds 3. So we can't have more than we can rescue. We're at about 400 kilometers up. It takes about 90 minutes to circle the Earth. Canada, the States, Japan, European Union, and Russia are the main sponsors of the space station. You can see it pretty well any time of the day or night. We get 6 passes a day over Halifax, so 4 of them are usually in the daytime, so it's hard to see. But at night, generally, we'll be able to see 1 or 2 passes. Now, Canadian contribution to the space station has mostly been with robotics. The Canadarm, of course, was attached to the shuttle, and when the space station started to get big enough, we built Canadarm2. And this is the large one, Canadarm2, with the dexterous manipulator arm and the main strut mobile base. And it allows us to capture supply vessels, like in this case we have the, we have the Dragon one that the Falcons, Elon Musk, his group, they've launched supply vessels to the space station now. So since we have no shuttle, this is how we get supplies up and down from the space station. But the Canadarm2 is very important with the construction of the space station, as well as servicing the shuttle and the station itself. The best way to describe it is a series of cameras that give you a good three-dimensional view of the space station. So when you're moving the arms, the manipulator has 5 cameras. There's 2 on the main arm and 2 on the mobile mount, and it allows very complex maneuvering with the arm to put modules in and out of the space station, or in and out of the shuttle, or move pieces of the space station from one end to the other. So our Canadian contribution is mostly robotic. The first set of Canadian astronauts, Ken Mooney, Mark Garneau, Steve McLean, Bjarne Tryggensen, Robert Thirsk, and Roberta Bondar were the first set of astronauts in space for the Canadians. The next group, Chris Hadfield, Michael McKay, Julie Piet, and Dave Williams. There's 4 new ones that are in the program right now. 2 were supposed to go up in December, but with the complications with the Russian Soyuz, we're not sure if they're going to be able to go up or not. But in space, we've had Julie Piet. She was first to the space station in 1999 aboard the Endeavour shuttle, and she was the first one to use the Canadarm from the space station. And she was the first Canadian to board the space station as well. In 2009, she went on her second mission, and she joined Robert Thirsk, who was already up there in space in 2009. 2001, Chris Hadfield delivered the Canadarm, or the Canadarm2, to the space station and helped install it. He performed the first Canadian spacewalk. 2007, Dave Williams with the crew of STS-118 was the first ones to dock. There's Dave there. The first shuttle to dock and use the power from the space station to manage the shuttle while it was servicing the space station. Also, Dave Williams was our first Canadian, well, he has a record for spacewalks. He completed 3 of the 4 spacewalks when they were there in 2007. Total hours, 17 hours and 47 minutes in space. Now in 2013, if I get my page switched, 2009, Robert Thirsk went up, and he has the longest duration record of a Canadian in space, 188 days. Now in 2009, when he was up, the Royal Astronomy Society Halifax Centre actually got to talk with them through the AEROS program. We were at a astronomy summer camp, and we got a chance to talk with Robert on the space station. In 2009, Julie Piet joined him for 2 weeks on the space station while Robert was there. He completed the longest mission for a Canadian, 180 days. Now in 2013, Chris Hadfield went up, and he was the first Canadian commander of the space station, and a lot of you might have his social media feeds. He was always sending tweets and that about what he was doing and doing experiments live on camera. Tremendous following, and Chris Hadfield was the head. Oh, okay. Sorry. Chris Hadfield was one of our premier astronomers, being the commander of the space station. Now, in the current experiments going on in the space station, keep hitting the wrong button here, sorry. They're working on how to be at home in space. She's in the copula where they relax and where the telescope is. This is a bone marrow experiment, bone marrow cells in microgravity. The space flight effects on astronauts' brains, and the vascular echogram, cardiovascular health in space, and Chris was working on the space radiation risks when he was up there. These are just 5 of the past experiments. Canadians have done over 25, 30 experiments on the space station. Advanced plant experiments in orbit, the growth of plants and the mutation. Predicting fainting in space. How bodies in the space environment, which way is up. The ultimate tickle test. It's a specialized foot to recognize the sensors in your foot for how they work in space. And this is the first test of the exercise machine, the H-reflex machine that they use to keep themselves in fit. Now, future missions for Canadians, we're looking at, this is a virtual reality test to figure out why some astronauts get disorientated when they're on the space station. That'll be going up in the next year or 2. Vascular aging has been a primary concern of astronauts in space for long duration flights, and Roberta Bondar was the one that started the program in assessing how the heart health is when they were in space. And the next one is an immunoprofile, looking at how germs respond in space. So we're looking at staying healthy in space. That's basically what I have for what's going on up in the space station right now for Canadians. We have a lot of programs such as ARIS, where we're communicating with the space station, and hopefully our 2 astronauts that are getting ready to go will be able to go if the Russians can correct the problems with the Soyuz. So, and then the Americans are looking at having a new shuttle program, which will allow us to send more astronauts at one time. But the space station's up there. It's been manned since 2000, and it's a going concern. It's well worth it. For the young people here, study hard, keep yourselves in shape, and you can be up there too. And we can talk to you when you get there. Okay? That's it for me. Thanks. Just before I finish, I've got some extra copies of the space station passes for the next couple days here in Halifax. And also I have a few, I was lucky when I worked at the Discovery Center that the Space Center was there. So all the astronauts tended to go through the Discovery Center before and after missions. So I have a few autographed pictures that I collected from the astronauts. So if you want to come up and take a look, these are the astronauts that have actually visited here in Halifax at the Discovery Center. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. I'm not going to bother using that, Eric. I'll use this. So, yeah, we're getting really, really close right now. We're amending the plan that we had. Daisy is going to be running this video right now. Eric, if you wouldn't mind bringing up the audio on that. And it'll, in a condensed form, give you all the information that I would have given you. I'll jump in afterwards if we have a little bit of time. We'll be joining the ground station in Italy at 1 minute to 3. So you can keep an eye on your watches. And I think we're ready to go on that. Hope you enjoy it. Eric? Just add that one to the list. And now, the video. How you doing?
We must be pretty excited to talk directly with astronauts at the International Space Station today. While we're waiting for the space station to come over your portion of the sky, let's talk a little bit about how it's going to happen. Of course, Mission Control is in contact with astronauts all the time, using a big radio with lots of fancy equipment.
However, we're going to be using something very different. We are going to use ham or amateur radio to talk directly to the International Space Station.
When most people hear the word radio, they think of a music radio station. But it's so much more than that. Radio actually refers to the unseen energy that transmits all sorts of signals using electromagnetic waves. At first, people learned how to send signals like Morse code. And then they discovered that you can send so much more, like data, computer signals, and even TV.
Maybe you don't realize it, but you use radio every day. Maybe you watched the TV this morning, or you texted your friends, or maybe even you check social media like Twitter or Instagram.
Let's travel back to space for a minute. Since the beginning of the space age, humans have sent many spacecraft out into the universe. These range from the Hubble Space Telescope, orbiting the Earth daily, and the Curiosity rover exploring Mars. We've even sent a long-distance messenger, the Voyager 1, who has traveled outside of our solar system.
Whether it's capturing a great picture of a far-off galaxy or conducting experiments on the space station, radio has to do with all of these. And today, you're going to be using ham radio. Now you might be wondering, what exactly is ham radio?
Amateur or ham radio is a service and a hobby where operators can talk to people around their neighborhoods, their cities, their country, and even around the world. Amateur radio operators require a radio license from the government. They're not that hard to get. I have one. My call sign is KM4LAO.
And mine is KP8YJ. Our call signs are a way of identifying who we are to other operators. This lets everyone know that we have the proper license to using the radio.
As amateur radio operators, or hams as we are often called, we can talk with others about basically whatever we want, often science or some new radio gadget that we are interested in.
Let's focus back to the space station and your contact today. Many of the astronauts and cosmonauts aboard the space station are licensed ham radio operators. That's why your operators today can contact them. The people here, as well as the astronauts, are licensed to talk to each other, and you are allowed to talk over to the radio.
For our conversation today, we'll need an amateur radio station on the ground, either in this location or somewhere else around the world. We'll also need a radio in the space station.
Anyone in test? Anyone in test?
You can hear the calls coming. This is November Alpha 1 Sierra Sierra, the International Space Station, over.
On the space station, the radio transceiver is connected to an amateur radio antenna mounted on the outside. One of these antennas will be used today during our contact.
For our side of the contact, we need a good-sized antenna, a signal amplifier, something to make our signal stronger, and a rotator for turning our antenna. We have to keep our antenna pointed right at the International Space Station. And remember, it's moving across the sky and fast.
To aim the antenna properly, we need to track the path of the space station exactly. NASA uses complex systems to track the path of the space station and other orbiting objects.
The satellite tracking program we are using works out a complicated set of mathematics to provide the orbital location of the space station moment by moment as it moves through space. This information is sent to the computer that controls the antenna rotator, which moves the antenna to follow the space station. Maybe some of you have seen or worked with robotics. That's pretty cool stuff. And just like you can program a robot where to go, what to do, and how to get there, you can also program a computer to tell an antenna how to track the space station across the sky.
You know, it took a lot of planning to get this contact. Several weeks ago, the Aeros operations team had to figure out when the space station's orbit would pass over this location. Then, they had to talk with the planners at NASA's Johnson Space Center. The cruise time is pretty full, so they were able to find a time that could work for the crew members' schedules. Once they found times that would work both in space and here on the ground, the host organized this contact. And in just a few minutes, you'll be hearing and talking to the astronauts.
Well, it's almost time for your contact. It will be exciting, so good luck with it.
Eric, how are we doing for time? How? 1 minute. 1 minute, so it's 57? 2:57? Okay, I'm going to ask the youngsters to gather over on this side, please, sorry. In the sequence that you were in when we practiced this. Now we're getting close to having to connect with Italy, so watch your footing on some of the wiring here. No, it's not. Have you guys got it? No? Right, okay. Okay, thank you very much for your patience. I'll just bring your attention to the ground track that the space station is currently on right now. Right here, you seem to be lagging a little bit. Right here is our ground station in Italy, and the space station, as you can see, is going to be going at about a 50-degree elevation to that location. So when this, the numbers are right, the Keplerian elements are working for us. When this edge gets up here, so when our contact will start, but I have a funny feeling we're running just a little bit behind on that one. Eric, how are we doing for time? I want to go to T6. You still have Claudio?
We're at 2:58.
58. Okay, so in a minute's time, we're going to be starting a formal portion of the presentation. We sort of skipped through the informal where I would tell you how we're doing this. In a nutshell, the ground station, once again, is in Italy. We're connecting through a conference calling center, and the uplink and downlink is actually being performed by Claudio and their team at IK1 SLD. That's their ham radio call sign, and that's the call sign they'll be using when they establish communication with the ISS. Eric, we should be coming up on 59 now, I guess. We'll go with the formal. Claudio's with you?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Oh, Claudio.
Ready for the street, sir.
Ciao, Claudio. And I'm getting a little feedback here, Eric.
Okay.
It's been quite a day here, Claudio. How are things in Italy?
Excuse me, please.
How are things in Italy? Are you all ready to go?
Yes, I'm ready. All the systems are ready to go.
Okay, that's great. Then we're going to start the formal portion of the presentation. Getting feedback here, Eric.
We have now T minus 5 minutes from now.
Okay. Okay, I'm still getting bringing, Eric. Is there anything I can do? Get closer? Okay. Hang on to your ears. Okay, to our audience here at Keshen Goodman Library, and to the friends joining us through the simulcast, a very warm welcome. My name is Wayne Harrisimovich. My amateur radio call sign is VE1WPH, and I have the pleasure of being part of the ARIS Canada mentor team. There's 3 of us that support educational outreach through the ARIS program here in Canada. Through the help of amateur radio, in a very short period of time, we'll be speaking with astronaut Serena Aunon-Chancellor, who has been on the International Space Station since early June of this year. She'll be coming back home around the 20th of December, I think. We do have a Canadian astronaut going up on the 3rd as well, David Saint-Jacques. So, or let me pronounce that correctly, David Saint-Jacques. He likes it to be called David. And in any event, I'm sure Serena will be looking forward to coming home. But for now, I'm sure she's looking forward to speaking to the youngsters we have ready to go here. They've been anxiously waiting and been very, very patient. At the onset, I might as well mention that these youngsters have been waiting for better than 2 months. We did have an ARIS contact planned for late, I guess it was September during IMP Family Days. And unfortunately, we weren't able to complete that contact because of some timing issues. However, the ARIS program is about inspiration and not about disappointment. So the entire team of volunteers stepped forward, and working with the NASA folks, we were able to establish this contact. And typically they don't do contacts on Saturdays, but for this group, Serena was more than happy to step forward. It was interesting too to note that as she looks out the cupola window on the station, she sees Canada Arm 2. The folks at IMP Electronics actually did some of the wiring harnessing for not just Canada Arm 2, but also for the shuttle's Canada Arm, and as well as a number of other orbiting satellites, radar, sat, and whatnot. So there's a lot of activity in that little building out on Hammonds Plains Road that people don't realize. Eric, how are we doing for time here?
We're at 3:03.
3:03? Okay. So before we run out of time here, I think it's probably a good idea to check in with Claudio. Claudio Auditore, and I can't remember how to pronounce the name of your community there, Claudio, but I have been on the web and looking at some of the beautiful architecture in your location in northern Italy. Can you tell us maybe a little bit about your location, how you expect to conduct the communication with ISS today, and then we'll be getting ready to go ahead with our contact.
Oh, okay, thank you, Wayne, for your presentation. Briefly, our Teleberg station is located in Casale Monferrato Airport, northwest of Italy, 100 kilometers from Turin and Milan. When T minus 30 seconds, I go to call Serena aboard the ISS, operating today with Oscar Romeo 4 India Sierra Sierra call sign. And as soon as signal will be loud and clear, I will invite the student to start with first question. For the students, please don't forget to say over, because this is a very important thing to coordinate the conversation between us and the astronaut. Now see the ISS approaching to Italy. In this moment we have T minus 45 seconds from now. 45 seconds. Okay, microphone back to you, Wayne.
Okay then, well, we're very short on time now, so I will remind everybody in the audience here that you've seen some of it today. This is a little bit like an experiment. We don't know the outcome until the experiment is actually complete. So we thank you very much for your patience. And with just probably less than 30 seconds now before we call to station, we would like to thank Claudio and wish you good luck, and we'll see you on the other side, Claudio. Ciao.
Okay, Wayne. In this moment we have the ROS, so I'm calling now. Oscar Romeo 4 India Sierra Sierra, this is India Kilo 1 Sierra Lima Delta, Telebridge ground station calling for a scheduled Irish contact. Do you copy? Serena, over.
IK1 SLB, this is OR4 ISS, how do you copy?
Okay, Oscar Romeo 4 India Sierra Sierra IK1 SLB, good evening, Serena. Your signal is loud and clear now. Today from Italy we introduced the IMP Aerospace and Defense in Canada. Are you ready for first question? Serena, over.
Yes, I'm ready for the first question. And hello, Canada. Over.
Okay, go ahead, Chloe.
Hi, my name is Chloe, and my question is, what happens when you sneeze in space? Over.
Hi, Chloe. It's kind of interesting. If you're not holding on to anything, and depending on how forceful your sneeze is, you can actually blow yourself in the opposite direction. And that happened to me once the first week I was up here. Over.
Hi, my name is Shannon. What kind of physical training do you have to go through before going into space? Over.
So we have a lot of physical training that we do on the ground. We do a lot of running and weightlifting for actually many years before we go into space. And then we exercise every day in space up here, about 2 hours. Over.
Hi, my name is Bria. Do you believe signs of life, past or present, will be found in our solar system? Over.
Hi, Bria. I get this question a lot, and I have to say I believe there's got to be more than what's on planet Earth. I don't know what that is, but certainly us starting off in low Earth orbit is a good first step to finding out. Over.
Hi, my name is Ella. What is the coolest thing you've seen from the space station? Over.
Hi, Ella. The coolest thing I've seen up here has got to be the aurora, actually the northern lights, which I saw over Canada just the other day, because those lights are really alive. There are multiple colors, and we see them dancing. And for us, the view is absolutely spectacular. Over.
Hi, my name is Ruin. How do you handle a medical issue in space, especially if they're life-threatening? Over.
Hi, Leland. So we have a lot of medical kits up on board to help us out. We actually have doctors on the ground that help look out after us. But certainly if someone gets very, very sick, then the crew comes home. Over.
What's it like to be an astronaut? Over.
Hi. So it's actually pretty cool, especially right now since we're flying in space and I get to float to work every day and float back to my bedroom at night, which is about the size of a telephone booth, so you guys probably have bigger bedrooms than I do. But it is really, really fun to be up here, especially because of all the science experiments we get to do. Over.
Hi, my name is Tyler. What does it smell like inside the ISS? Over.
Hi, Tyler. So when we first came on board the ISS, when we opened the hatch from our Soyuz to the inside part, it actually had a burnt electrical smell, and that was actually the smell of the outer portion of our hatch. Once you get into ISS, it really has not much of a smell at all. In fact, right now, I don't really morning, and I have to say that the smells of Earth are so much better than the smells we have up here. Over.
Hi, my name is Trevor. Is there any food grown at the space station? Over.
Yes, Trevor, we are actually growing kale and lettuce right now in the Columbus module, and we have enough for about a small salad to share between the three of us. Over.
I am Trevor asking a question for Melina. How do you do laundry on the ISS Oval?
So we're actually not able to do laundry up here. We wear our clothes for a couple days. In fact, we have one shirt per week, one pair of underwear for 3 days, and one pair of pants for 2 months. And then we throw them out and start again. Over.
Do you keep your how?
Okay, I'll ask a question. How does your spacesuit stay warm? Over.
I copy that. How does your spacesuit stay warm? So our spacesuits stay warm by the multiple layers of protection that they have. And interestingly enough, one of our biggest problems during a spacewalk is cooling, meaning cooling of the person inside. If our fans shut down inside that spacesuit, the person gets overheated very quickly. Over.
Hi, my name is Chloe, and my question is, in order to maintain altitude or avoid orbital debris or reboost or avoidance maneuver is performed, can you feel that taking place inside the ISS? Over.
Hi, Chloe. Great question. Sometimes you can. If you're right up on where the engines are being lit to perform the reboost, you can feel a slight shudder or a rumble. I have not felt that up here yet, but some of my crewmates say they have. Over.
Hi, my name is Cheyenne. How long did it take for you to adjust to the weightless environment on the ISS? Over.
So I think, even now we're still adjusting. Certainly at first we were not very graceful floating around, and we would run into a lot of walls, and we didn't learn how to hold on to things with our feet. And now, being up here for almost 6 months, we're all very, very good at that, and so we move along a lot more gracefully. But I think our bodies continue to adapt every day. Over.
Hi, my name is Bria. How does life spent on the underwater training laboratory Aquarius compare to life on ISS? Over.
Well, besides the floating up here, which is way more cool than Aquarius, I have to say that Aquarius is very, very similar because we have science experiments to do during the day. We talk with a mission control with Aquarius, just the same as we do here. So our days are very, very similar. Over.
Hi, my name is Ella. Is it noisy or quiet in the space station? Over.
So most of the time, you just hear a very low background hum of all machinery in every module, and every module sounds different. Some modules have a little less noise than others. We certainly don't have to wear any earplugs up here. We only do that when we're running on the treadmill, because that does make a lot of noise. Over.
Hi, my name is Raylan. What do you do when there's a health concern astronauts have to deal with? Over.
I think some of the biggest health concerns that we deal with up here are changes in our eyes, and there's a part of the eye called the optic nerve, which is a big nerve that runs into the back of your eye, and they've seen some changes in that nerve, and sometimes it causes changes in how the astronaut is able to read things on a piece of paper. So we follow those changes in the eyes very, very closely. Over.
What's your favorite space meal? Over.
So my favorite space meal is still ice cream, always will be ice cream. We don't get it very often because obviously it has to come up frozen, but we just got a new cargo vehicle, Cygnus, docked a week ago, and they had a little tiny freezer, and they sent up ice cream for the crew. Over.
Hi, my name is Tyler. How do astronauts take a shower in space? Over.
Hi Tyler, so we actually do not take showers in space, so that may sound kind of disgusting. But we have these special washcloths that we use that we wet with water, and then it's got soap inside of them, and we're able to scrub ourselves down pretty good. But we don't actually have that nice hot shower that you guys enjoy in the morning. Over.
Hi, my name is Trevor. Does the entire crew gather for meals? Over.
Yes, we always gather together for dinner every night, sometimes for lunch, breakfast, because we don't have too much time in the morning to get ready. We usually get up, have our coffee, read the news, and then we're starting work pretty quickly. Over.
I am Trevin asking a question for Malia. What do you do in your spare time for entertainment? Over.
So actually tonight is one of the times we spend more time together as a crew. We have movie night every Saturday night, and we all take turns picking a movie, and we even have special movie candy that we bring and we get to eat. And so that's one of the main things we like to do to enjoy our time off on the weekends. Over.
How do you know if it's? How do you know how to go to bed at night? Over.
I think that comes to the question, how do you know when to go to bed at night? And it's funny, our bodies just know. Even though we see the sunrise and set multiple times a day, by the time 10 or 11 p.m. rolls around, we're all pretty tired, and our bodies kind of have shifted to this clock on board the space station, and so we know when it's time to go to bed. Over.
Hello, Selena. My name is Paul Heath. I'm with the Royal Astronomy Society of Canada, the Halifax Centre, and we'd like to thank you tremendously for being with us for this contact and answering the questions of the children here. Once again, we'd like to thank you very much for supporting the Aries program.
To hear from all the kids. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Big thank you. Big thank you.
Yeah, big thank you.
Okay, Claudio, is Serena still with us?
Okay, we have the loss in this moment. Serena, ciao from Italy, and good evening.
Okay, and
Appreciate the celebrant.
okay, Claudio, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for your participation, and of course to Serena, if she's still with us on ISS. The kids did a great job asking the questions. They went through them rapid fire, and you couldn't ask for anything more than that. So we would like to thank you, Claudio, and your team at IK1SLD. And if I could ask everybody here to give them a round of applause. They do an awful lot of these
Thank you, Wayne, and thank you to your team at the school for the event in this afternoon. And 73 from Italy, and I hope to meet you again in another conference. 73 from my team, from Emiliano, from Nicole, and Giovanni, and Fabio. Bye bye, ciao ciao, thank you.
Grazie, ciao, Claudio. 7-3. Great job by the kids.
Just some copies of the contact information for the space station if you want to try to find it. It looks like we might have a clear night. It's 9 minutes after 6 in southeast. And it should be high enough to be a nice reddish dot moving steadily across the skies.
And now I get to finish the formal. Ladies and gentlemen, we have shared a moment of history. Amateur radio station IK1SLD, located in northern Italy and operated by Claudio Aitori and his team, contacted astronaut Serena Aunon-Chancellor on board the International Space Station. The youngsters here did a wonderful job. I don't think you could ask anything more of them. They were actually so good, we had time left over. I wish I had known that. We may have been able to put a couple more questions in there. So now for the entire international team of ARIS, including the Radio Amateur Satellite Corporations around the world, the Amateur Radio Relay League, Canadian Space Agency, European Space Agency, JAXA, NASA, and the Canadian Space Agency, and Roscosmos in Russia. This is Wayne Harrisimovich, Aris Canada Mentor, and amateur radio operator VE1WPH, sending my regards to all of you in amateur radio terms, 7-3 or best wishes. Thank you very much for spending the afternoon with us.